And so are the Brooklyn Nets. By the way, there was a ring ceremony with LeBron and AD and the crew last night. They ain't help them beat the Clippers, though. And of course, Juju Smith-Schuster dancing on other people's logo. It's one thing to play TikTok. It's another thing to play TikTok when you're supposed to be playing football. All that and more coming up. First take in the house. Let's go.
Opening night in the NBA. We're ready to go. Curry knocks down a three.
Watch how I do this.
Kevin Durant, a red-hot start.
Watch what I do next.
You guys came out here and just played extremely hard, competed, and put on a good show for the opening night.
I ain't forgot how hard it was to get to the spot. I'ma get to the top. Why?
The Clippers just running the Lakers off the floor.
Whoa, he put it down hard. George, he's getting hot now.
Work it, PG.
That's how I play. That's how I catch fire. I let the game come to me.
Hello, everybody. Welcome on into First Take. What's going on? Can you believe, Stephen A., the NBA is already back? That was quick.
Yes,
everybody, I'm Charlie Arnold. We got Stephen A. Smith. Max Kellerman will be with us in just a second. I know, 72 days. That was the shortest offseason in league history. And last night we saw a lot. And as expected, the Nets were looking nice. KD was dominant on the floor. He was 22 points in a 125-99 romp over his former Warriors team. And Kyrie, he was also focused, also very flashy, finishing with a team-high 26 points. So, Stephen A., we saw what the Nets were capable of last night. So should they still want to trade for James Harden?
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, obviously you don't throw it off the table because James Harden is one of the most prolific scorers we've ever seen in NBA history. And I think the question that needs to be asked here is that, are you trying to get to the finals or are you trying to win it all? If you're trying to win it all, you can't shut the door on James Harden. It remains to be seen how good the Brooklyn Nets are going to be in terms of being able to beat the Lakers, because I think the Lakers are obviously the favorites and they should be the favorites and they're coming out of the West. That's my personal belief, which we'll get into a little bit later. But Brooklyn, there's no mistake about it. They're a deep team. KD is KD. He looks very fluid, very healthy. And when he's on that level, there's just no answer for him. He's probably the most unstoppable offensive force in basketball when he's healthy, and he looked pretty damn good to me. And Kyrie is just an absolute showstopper. He's a showman. He's box office. You walk through the turnstiles to see Kyrie Irving. He's just that special. Having said all of that, when we look at the Brooklyn Nets, the question one must ask themselves is this: are you winning the chip? I believe the Brooklyn Nets are coming out of the Eastern Conference. I believe they'll beat Milwaukee. I believe they'd beat Philadelphia. I believe they'd beat Boston. I believe they'd beat Miami. You're coming out of the East. As far as I'm concerned, they're a legitimate, bona fide favorite. Some people want to say Milwaukee. Go right ahead. I ain't feeling that, okay? It's Brooklyn all day, every day. Brooklyn's in the building, no question. But when you talk about winning the chip, Charlie, winning the chip, and I know Max will be here in just a few moments because he's having technical difficulties, y'all. He ain't hiding from me, just for the record. He usually might be hiding and all that stuff, especially when we bring up Kawhi and he got to go with oops or whoops and all of that stuff. Max is usually hiding under those conditions, but right now it's about technical difficulties. Max will be here any minute now. He'll be here any minute. But in the end, what it comes down to is this. When you look at this team, when you look at the Los Angeles Lakers, and you're asking the question, I see you now, bro. I see you now. Here's the deal. When it comes down to it, do you have enough to beat the Lakers? I'm not sure about that, but if you had Harden, there would be no doubt that the Brooklyn Nets would be the favorites. And by the way, James Harden is 32 years of age, or approaching 32 years of age. It ain't like he's 40. He's still got at least another 5 years in him. That's where I'm coming from with that. Yeah, you still consider trading for James Harden.
Mm-hmm. First of all, I heard you talk about whoops or oops. It's whoops, by the way, with a W. Like, whoops, there it is. Kevin Durant's back. Kevin Durant last night looked like he looked like KD. Maybe not quite as strong or as explosive, but it's hard to tell in one game. But he was already 80% of the way there. Let's assume he comes along even more. Here's the thing, Stephen A. The Nets should absolutely not trade for James Harden. I saw what I needed to see last night in terms of the way that team functions. You don't want a ball stopper who, by the way, has had chemistry issues with other stars in the past, even when they get along well off the court. right? Like, forget about him and Chris Paul, him and Westbrook. It lasts a year, and then he doesn't want to do it anymore. So that's one issue. But the more important issue for me is I think he'd make the Nets worse. I mean, Harden is a great player. There's no two ways about it.
What?
But the way they look, KD, he'd make them worse. KD and Kyrie are working extremely well together. These are two guys who can do a lot of things, including really shoot the ball, right? So it's not like the freak or someone even like LeBron who can hit shots from certain spots, but is not really a pure shooter, where then you think, oh, we have to surround them with shooters. No, you don't. Not really. They're the shooters, right? So a guy like Dinwiddie can get minutes even if he can't really bomb from the outside. But Joe Harris can bomb from the outside. Karis LeVert can, right? You look around at the supporting cast of this team. Jared Allen is a really good player. Not a shooter, but a really good player. But that's the point. You can play multiple guys who don't shoot from the outside with KD and Kyrie and who do other things. Look at how well the team is moving the ball, playing unselfishly, shooting from the outside, doing everything you want them to do. And look at the depth. Kenny Anderson pointed this out last night on the broadcast at halftime. Look at the depth of the team. I might disagree that Jeff Green would start on a lot of teams, but there are very few teams Karis LeVert would not only not start on, but be featured on, right? LeVert, Dinwiddie, I just mentioned them. Harris, Allen, they have depth on the team that is going to allow them, not only allow Kyrie and KD to do their things because they'll move the ball and play unselfishly, but depth on the team that will allow them to get out of the East. I would not sacrifice all that for a dude who's going to come in, stop the ball, and maybe create chemistry issues. Don't trade for Harden if you're the Nets.
Well, see, this is where I have a problem with you talking about basketball. This is where I have to go to the basketball authorities and have you arrested. This is what needs to happen when it comes to you, Max Kellerman. The Brooklyn Nets would be worse with James Harden. I understand the notion, okay, look at this team. Look at the depth that they have. Let's see how it works out. Don't touch it. I understand that thinking. Spencer Dinwiddie is no scrub. Karis LeVert is no scrub. Those brothers can ball. I got mad respect for them. I'm really good. I'm really high on DeAndre Jordan, despite the fact that he's older right now. Joe Harris, I'm very, very fond of. I can't say enough about Sean Marks and the job that he has done with this franchise, especially. I love the fact that he picked up Jeff Green. I love Jeff Green on this squad because he's not just a good player, he's also a character guy. One of the best people in the world that you could possibly meet. I love Jeff Green. But let me tell you something right now, Max. To sit up there and say that a guy that just finished averaging over 30 the last 3 years, that has been in the conversation as one of the most prolific offensive weapons the game of basketball in its history has ever seen, would make a championship contender worse. I don't understand that kind of thinking. That's blasphemy as far as I'm concerned. Keep in mind, Max, come playoff time. I've had to educate you about this before. I don't know how many times. Remember, you picked Milwaukee to beat Miami last year. I had to school you on that one. Remember, when it comes to playoff basketball and the game slows, and I'll hand this to you, Max. I'll hand this to you because I definitely want to get your response to this. When the game slows down, come playoff time, the game slows down. And as a result, you find yourself with coaches and teams being incredibly familiar with what you want to do. Max, it ain't about plays and it ain't about schemes. It's about three things: talent, conditioning, and at the end of the day, that dude that you can give the ball to and say, excuse me, I need you to take me to the promised land. KD, what makes him so sensational is the fact that he could go without touching the ball for 10 straight possessions. And then you could give him the ball to stop the bleeding in 2. And he'll just put it in the hole anytime you want to. You got to pay attention to that. James Harden does not make anybody worse. That's going overboard.
Well, yeah, you need players who can go and they wall up when they pay extra defensive attention, when it requires the high basketball IQ. No doubt about it. They have 2 guys who can do that just about as well as anyone who ever lived, right? You have KD and Kyrie. You don't need another guy to do that on that level. You need other guys who can do that, and you can't tell me LeVert can't get his own shot. We saw LeVert get his own shot, right? We just saw that last year when he was able to develop as the primary scorer on that team. But we also saw last night he doesn't have to be. He can come off the bench. I think he can play next to those guys. He can get his shot off the dribble. He can shoot from the outside. He can score on all three levels. LeVert is the perfect third best
can they get to the finals?
A team like that. You don't need more than that. And by the way, LeVert doesn't need to. When he's at his best, he's not dribbling it 1,000 times like Harden. He sometimes has a tendency to do that. Not on this team, he won't be able to do that, right? So you have guys like...
For clarity.
I understand if it was Jeff Green and DeAndre Jordan, guys like that are available all the time in the offseason, and they're useful in certain situations. No doubt, I agree. But you know who you can't just pick up at any point? Who gives you a little premium over just an NBA starter? A guy like Dinwiddie. A guy like LeVert. At the position, a guy like Allen.
Okay.
The Nets have those guys, and they're perfect around these stars, Stephen A. What I saw last night, no one's stopping the Nets in the East. I would not mess that up if I were them.
That's my point. I agree with you. No one's stopping Brooklyn in the East. I don't believe that. Right now, it's presently constructed. They are the best team in the Eastern Conference. To win the chip, I'm not ruling out James Harden. I'm not ruling that out to win it all. That's the difference.
All right. Well, no disputing the chemistry on this team. They even said on the broadcast last night that behind the scenes things are going well. They said that Kyrie Irving actually acting as a mentor to some of these other guys. That does include Karis LeVert. But guys, let's talk about that second game last night.